Motion in your step.
Motivation in your heart.
Hello, and welcome to today's Motion and Motivation podcast.
We've put together a study guide for everyone. If you need it, you can grab it from the video description.
Well, Donald Trump himself, with The Art of the Deal.
It's a book I'm sure many are familiar with, right? But it's more than just Trump recounting his successes. It's like a calculated glimpse into how he wants to be perceived, a sort of carefully crafted image of this ultimate deal-making tycoon.
Oh, absolutely. Right off the bat, he makes it clear that deal-making isn't some skill you pick up in a seminar. He's adamant that it's all about instinct, something you're either born with or you're not.
Yeah.
He even goes as far as comparing it to, like, athletic ability, saying all the education in the world can't replace that raw, natural talent.
It's a pretty bold statement. He essentially positions himself as someone who's inherently gifted in this arena. And this idea kind of sets the foundation for what he calls his Trump playbook, those core tactics that he swears by.
Yeah, and one of the most prominent ones is that think big mentality. From the get-go, Trump set his sights on making a real splash in Manhattan. He wasn't content with simply following in his father's footsteps. He was drawn to those high-stakes, high-profile projects that would make a statement like, I don't know, redeveloping the entire West Side railyards or plopping a skyscraper down right next to Grand Central Station.
That ambition just oozes from every page of this book. It's clear he's not just after success. He's after leaving a legacy, becoming a household name, and really stamping his mark on the city's skyline. There's this almost palpable energy about his desire to conquer Manhattan.
And that leads us to another tactic he emphasizes: maximize your options. He's a firm believer in always having multiple deals on the table, almost like backup plans in case one falls through.
Oh, absolutely. He talks about it in the context of flexibility, being able to adapt to changing circumstances. So while everyone else is laser focused on one big opportunity, he's already thinking 3 steps ahead, exploring alternative avenues.
He even talks about how, while he was neck deep in that whole West Side Yards project, he was simultaneously pursuing the land that would eventually become Trump Tower, just in case the first deal went south. Talk about hedging your bets.
It's actually quite a savvy approach when you think about it, that constant awareness of the bigger picture and a willingness to pivot if necessary.
But then there's the flip side of that coin, which he calls use your leverage. And this is where things get, well, a little more, shall we say, interesting. He's not afraid to play hardball, whether it's walking away from a deal that's not going his way, or even, and he admits this quite openly, using threats to get what he wants.
It really makes you think about that fine line between strategic negotiation and, well, intimidation, doesn't it? It's something that definitely pops up throughout his career, this pushing of boundaries and challenging of conventional norms.
To balance that out, though, he also stresses the importance of knowing the market. He really emphasizes understanding the true value of what you're buying or selling, even if it means seeing potential where others see only a lost cause, like with that whole Commodore Hotel deal.
Oh, right. He saw an opportunity in that rundown building that everyone else had written off, simply because he understood the market, the potential value hidden beneath the grime and neglect.
And of course, we can't forget his almost instinctive grasp of promote yourself. Trump firmly believes in controlling the narrative, in shaping public perception to his advantage. He understands that image is everything, especially in the world of high-stakes deal-making.
Oh, absolutely. He even talks about playing up connections, sometimes even exaggerating his influence to make deals happen. It's like he's always putting on a show, crafting this persona of Donald Trump, master deal-maker, even early in his career.
Which, when you think about it, is a tactic many successful people employ, right? Branding yourself, crafting your narrative, it's all part of the game.
Exactly. And it's through these tactics, these glimpses into his strategies, that we start to see the man behind the boardroom, his personality and motivations shining through. He talks about his father quite a bit, for instance. It's clear there's a deep respect for his father's business acumen, but also this underlying drive to maybe prove himself, to forge his own path.
Right. He mentions how his father, Fred, built a successful business, but focused on middle-class housing in Brooklyn and Queens. Donald, however, he was drawn to the glitz and glamour of Manhattan, those high-profile projects that would solidify his name, cement his legacy.
There's almost this sense of, I'm not content with simply inheriting success. I need to earn it on my own terms, in my own way, and that ambition really permeates everything he does.
He even recounts his father's reaction to the Commodore Hotel deal, which, if you recall, was a pretty risky move at the time. Fred was worried, apparently, telling him buying the Commodore when even the Chrysler building is in trouble is like fighting for a seat on the Titanic.
It's a telling anecdote, isn't it? Because even with those concerns, even with the weight of his father's doubts, Trump forged ahead, driven by this unwavering belief in his instincts, in his ability to pull off what others deemed impossible.
Which I'd say speaks volumes about his character. He's got this unwavering self-belief, this determination to prove the doubters wrong.
Absolutely. And that determination is evident in how he talks about his time at military school. He talks about learning to navigate this strict, hierarchical environment, not by challenging authority head-on, but by, well, outsmarting it.
It's almost like those experiences shaped his approach to dealing with, let's say, powerful people and institutions later on.
It suggests this early awareness of strategy and power dynamics. He learns to work within the system, but also to find those little cracks, those loopholes that allow him to bend the rules without breaking them. And those are invaluable skills in the world of New York real estate.
So we've got this picture emerging of a young, ambitious Donald Trump. He's strategic, already a master of self-promotion, and utterly determined to make his mark. But it begs the question, how much of this persona, this image, is carefully crafted, and how much of it is simply, authentically him?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I think as we dig deeper into some of his specific deals, like the Commodore Hotel or the Woolman Rink, we'll start to see those tactics in action, revealing even more about the man behind those deals. You know, Atlantic City in the late 70s, when Trump first set his sights on it, it wasn't exactly the gambling paradise it is today.
Yeah, more like a faded resort town trying to, recapture some of its former glory.
Exactly. A risky move, for sure. But Trump, he saw potential there. And while everyone else was focused on the boardwalk, he went for the marina, cheaper land, less competition, more room to make his mark. Classic think big, seeing what others miss.
But even then, he still had to get past the Casino Control Commission, which, from what I've heard, wasn't exactly known for being lenient, especially after that whole Playboy casino fiasco.
Right. And that's where that whole promote yourself instinct really kicks in. He knew he had to adapt, tone down the flashiness a bit, and present himself as this, respectable businessman, totally committed to revitalizing Atlantic City.
So, a bit of a strategic makeover. From brash deal maker to, Donald Trump, savior of Atlantic City.
Pretty much. And you know what? It worked. He got his license. But then came another hurdle. How to actually compete with those established casinos already raking it in on the boardwalk.
Instead of going head-to-head, he pulled out that maximize your options playbook again, didn't he?
Sure.
He went after Holiday Inns, a company that already had a casino license.
A bold move, for sure. But it was also pretty smart. It bypassed all that red tape and gave him an immediate foothold in the market. But of course, it wasn't a walk in the park convincing Holiday Inns to trust him, this relative newcomer, with their casino.
I bet he turned on the charm, maybe even dialed up that think big vision a notch or two, promising them the moon under his leadership.
Oh, he absolutely did. And you know what? It worked. He secured that deal, proving yet again how adaptable he could be, how he could tailor his approach to different situations. But integrating Holiday Inns into his organization, now, that was a different story. Clashes of cultures, management styles.
It wasn't all smooth sailing, even for the self-proclaimed master deal maker.
It just goes to show that even the most skilled negotiators can face challenges when it comes to the human side of business.
So even with that supposed innate talent, there were still bumps in the road. It makes you wonder how much of success is really down to instinct versus, learned skills and experience.
It's an interesting question, isn't it? But knowing Trump, he wasn't about to let those challenges hold him back. His next big move was building Trump Plaza, his own grand statement right there on the boardwalk.
Now that's what I call ambition. It was like he wanted to recreate Trump Tower, but with, blackjack tables and slot machines instead of luxury condos.
Yeah. Exactly. Trump Plaza had to be the most extravagant, the most talked about casino in Atlantic City. He envisioned this, palace of entertainment, drawing in high rollers, celebrities, the whole 9 yards.
But the casino world, that's a whole different ballgame from real estate. Did he really have a grasp on the intricacies of running such a complex operation?
He certainly surrounded himself with experts in the field, seasoned casino executives, top-notch designers, you name it. But even when delegating, he remained very hands-on, involved in every detail, making sure it aligned with his grand vision.
Talk about a demanding management style. It's that need for control again, that desire to shape everything in his image.
Without a doubt. But as extravagant and successful as Trump Plaza initially was, it eventually faced its share of financial struggles. Just goes to show that even the most meticulously planned ventures can be impacted by unforeseen circumstances, economic downturns, competition, you name it.
So there's a recurring theme here. Bold moves, impressive successes, but also those inevitable setbacks and hopefully lessons learned along the way.
Absolutely. Trump's Atlantic City ventures were like a microcosm of his career as a whole. They highlighted his strengths, his vision, his negotiation skills, his marketing savvy, but also exposed some vulnerabilities, particularly in his management style, and those at times, let's say, optimistic expectations.
And we'd be remiss not to mention his undeniable fascination with the media, something he dedicates a surprising amount of space to in The Art of the Deal.
It's almost like he understood, even back then, the power of publicity, of shaping public perception to his advantage.
He knew how to leverage the media, how to grab headlines and stay in the public eye, even if it meant courting controversy from time to time.
That's a really astute observation because it's this fascinating push and pull he has with the press, this desire for their attention, but also this like resentment of their scrutiny. It's a dynamic that's only become more pronounced over the years.
A total love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
But before we get too far down that rabbit hole, I'm still curious about those personal anecdotes he sprinkles throughout the book. They offer such a different perspective on the man behind those mega deals. So we've covered a lot of ground, right? The tactics, the wins, the losses, that whole love-hate relationship with the media. But The Art of the Deal, it's not all just boardroom showdowns and like headline-grabbing deals. Trump actually throws in these, I don't know, almost like these little personal stories, anecdotes that are actually pretty revealing when you think about them.
Totally. And that's part of what makes this book so fascinating. You get those glimpses of like his personality, his quirks even. Like that whole thing about his obsession with cleanliness or how much he loves like luxury and extravagance. It actually ties back into his business strategies in these unexpected ways.
Right. Like when he talks about insisting on immaculate conditions at his father's properties, he even mentions like painting the concrete at Swifton Village just to make everything look pristine.
It wasn't just about being tidy, though. He makes this connection between those small touches and like the perceived value of the property. A fresh coat of paint, a well-maintained lobby that attracted better tenants, justified higher rents, ultimately boosted profit.
It's all about presentation, right?
Yes.
Creating this image of success, of quality. And you can see that same principle at play in everything from those meticulously maintained properties to like the sheer opulence of Trump Tower.
Absolutely. It's not enough for something to be valuable. It has to project that value, too. And then there's that story about him buying that used Boeing 727. Talk about think big. He even admits it was way more plain than he needed at the time, but he just couldn't resist the deal.
Had to have it.
Exactly. It speaks to this underlying drive to acquire, to possess the best, the most impressive, even if it's not entirely practical or necessary. It's part of crafting that image, right? Surrounding yourself with those symbols of success, of wealth, of status.
And it's not just the big ticket items either. He talks about how, like, even back when he flew commercial, he'd make a point of carrying his luggage onto the plane, even if it was just an empty garment bag, just so people would assume he had assistants handling his bags, that he was important.
It's like he's always on stage, playing this role, hyper aware of how he's being perceived. And you know what? It works. It creates this aura of success, this mystique that draws people in. They want to be associated with that, to be part of his world.
He's a master of image, that's for sure. But The Art of the Deal, it's not all just about appearances and, like, extravagant purchases. He also talks about his first wife, Ivana, and how instrumental she was in his business, especially with Trump Tower.
Right. He definitely acknowledges her contributions, her eye for design, her business sense.
He really respects her judgment, her work ethic. You can tell.
It's interesting, though, isn't it? Even when he's praising others, it's always sort of framed within the context of his own achievements. Like, they played a role, but ultimately he's the driving force, the mastermind behind it all.
It's like the ultimate self-made man story, you know. With Trump as this, like, larger-than-life protagonist, overcoming obstacles, silencing the doubters, and achieving this, like, almost unimaginable success through sheer force of will and this, like, unmatched deal-making prowess.
And that's really the key to understanding the art of the deal. It's a carefully constructed self-portrait, a testament to his ambition, his unshakable belief in himself, and his ability to, well, make things happen.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into Trump's world, What are we left with? What have we learned from spending this time with, well, the 1987 version of Donald Trump?
I think, for one, we've gained a better understanding of his deal-making tactics. And honestly, some of them are surprisingly practical and applicable even in our own lives. That whole think big mentality, the importance of maximizing your options, knowing your market, these are valuable principles that go way beyond real estate.
Totally. But we've also seen how intertwined those tactics are with his personality,
Right.
with his unwavering self-beliefs, his need for control, his knack for self-promotion. It's all part of the package.
Exactly. And that leads to another important takeaway. Success is rarely a straight line. Trump's story is full of both triumphs and setbacks, moments of genius, and instances where maybe his own weaknesses, his blind spots, held him back. It's a most ambitious plans require adaptability, a willingness to learn from those inevitable mistakes, and yeah, a little bit of luck never hurts either.
And let's not forget that the art of the deal also serves as a bit of a cautionary tale. Trump's relentless pursuit of success, his willingness to, let's say, bend the rules when it suits him, that calculated use of the media, it raises these questions about ambition, about ethics, about the potential consequences of putting personal gain above all else.
It's a good reminder that we as readers, as consumers of these stories, we have to be critical, to look beyond the surface and grapple with those complexities. Because the impact individuals have on the world around them, well, it's rarely black and white.
It's nuanced, complex, messy, and that's what makes The Art of the Deal such a fascinating and maybe even a little unsettling read even decades after it first hit the shelves. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. That way you won't miss any of our updates. Also, if you think this video could help others, please share it with them. Thanks for watching and for your support.